Welcome to the Hinsdale Local Podcast, where we explore the journeys and stories of entrepreneurs and their businesses here in Hinsdale, Illinois. I'm your host, Brent Stutzman. I'm the owner of Brand Your Practice here in Hinsdale, and today I'm joined by Sylvia Grachen, one of the owner of Hinsdale Barber on Hinsdale Avenue here in Hinsdale, Illinois. I couldn't resist. All right, so welcome to the show, Sylvia.
Hi, Brent. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. I'm really excited actually to have you on the show, and I'm just going to share a little bit how I got to know Hinsdale Barber. So a couple years ago, my brother-in-law Joe, he actually helped do some editing here in the offices here, and he actually for a number of years did hair cutting on the side just to raise money when he was in college and stuff, right? So I think he cut my hair. Did he cut my hair? I think he did. Yeah. Dustin, he cut your hair? Yeah, he cut Dustin's hair and our producer. And he came in, he's like, Brent, have you heard of Hinsdale Barber? And I said, well, no, I know of it, but I never got my hair cut there before. He's like, you got to go see Victor. And so if you remember, Dustin, if you remember Joe, like he was very peculiar about his fades and how he got his hair cut. And he loved Victor's work, so he would go there. And I was like, oh, okay. Now, I had a couple roommates in college that were Puerto Rican, and they had cut some really. They're like, Brent, you need to get a blowout. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. Yeah, but they did it anyway.
What is it?
So I ended up looking so good after they cut my hair. So I was like, all right, so I'll go. And I saw Victor once or twice, but then he's pretty filled up. Like he
is very busy.
He's very
very good.
Yeah,
that's why he's
yeah. And so I'm very busy with my family and work, and so I went in there, and Yadira was available, and so she cut my hair, and then after that I was like, this is great.
Yeah, no,
so
she's great too.
So she's been cutting my hair for like the last 2 years now.
Yeah,
and so anyways, that's how I've gotten to know.
Well, welcome.
Yeah. And the other thing I observed is I was thinking about this. When we think about local businesses, they're kind of these watering holes or these meeting places in town. And I was thinking, I was like, Hinsdale Barber is one of the few places you will see senior citizens and young families with kids all in one place, like middle age, whatever. When I walk in there, the whole gamut is in there, and it's busy, and there's so much energy happening. And I admire the parents who have the courage to bring young kids in to get their haircut, because it's a lot with young kids and trying to keep them confined in one space. Yeah. So I just think Hinsdale Barber is this real treasure in Hinsdale, where it's this beautiful place where a lot of people from all ages can come and get their haircut at a great price and get great service. So I know I saw on LinkedIn that Hinsdale Barber has been around for is it 35 years?
Since 1972.
Wow. So you got to take us back. Okay. Take us back to the 70s. Yeah.
My dad started it. He was the owner of Hinsdale Barbershop. So he started Hinsdale Barbershop. We were just down the street, a couple doors down from where we are now. And he came from Glenelg in a shop, and he was actually let go because they were competing too much against each other. So he let him go, and he had two small kids, and he found Hinsdale. He didn't know nothing about Hinsdale. But then he says, this is it. This is it. He looked at the town. He loved it, and there it came. He started with three-chair shop, an old-time barbershop. And he was the first guy to bring in a blow dryer and wanted families, and that's how he started it. And then here comes me as a young teen. And he needed a barber. One was let go. So then I came in just to help out. And then every week I was quitting. I was like, because working with family, you know how working with family is. And I was I was like, but then we got it clicked, and I loved Hinsdale. And 30 years later, I'm still there. Now running it.
Now you're running it. Yeah. Okay, so you would just quit every week because you're like, I can't take this.
Yeah, that stayed for about a month. I was like, it wasn't the actual business. It was just the family thing. Yeah. It was a family thing. I was like, oh, that's it. Okay, I'm done. Because I was going to work with my mother, and she had a shop. So I said,
like same kind of shop?
A beauty shop.
A beauty shop. Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay.
she had a beauty shop.
Where was
and my
that
dad
at?
that was in Romeoville.
Oh, you guys were really, that was really spread out then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, I,
Romeoville, that was like farmland
yeah.
back then.
Well, kinda.
Ki-
Yeah, that's where I went.
I mean,
Kinda.
it's really developed now, but back.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and she had the only beauty shop right in there. Yeah.
I would imagine it'd probably be the only one.
Yeah, right.
So did you grow up Romeoville? Like, where did you?
I grew up in Bolingbrook, and then I actually was the first ones that were shipped to Romeoville for high school.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's where I started my training. Was during high school. They had vocational, and I started cutting hair because that's what I wanted to do.
Okay. Well, I used to live in Woodridge. Bolingbrook, was that like off of Route 53 or?
That's Bolingbrook, yeah.
Yeah, Bolingbrook down Route 53 there.
Right.
So, well, I mean, Bolingbrook is really
Yeah,
expanded
it's,
now.
right. Oh, it's grew.
huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so it's really in the family.
Yeah.
Cutting
Oh,
hair.
yeah. That's how he started. His stepfather was a barber. We come from lines of barbers and teachers.
And
And teachers, yeah. Yeah. So
okay, so you quit every week and then you get hired. I mean, was it sort of like, Dad, I need a raise? Was it around that?
no. No, and that's actually how we work it. It's like it's not so much, and that's how I hire. I don't hire that you're going to make money. You're in for the money. You're in because you like cutting hair, because you have a passion for it, and you like people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll bring you
it's
the
like,
clients.
So that's
'cause-
it, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason. It wasn't so much the money thing. It was
Yeah.
the most the family thing. That's why it was. But then it took a month, and then it was like it was
Okay.
fine. Then I stayed. Like I said, I've been there since '86.
Okay. So started cutting hair in 86,
Yeah.
a 3-chair barber shop.
Yeah, and
On
then
it-
slowly moved. In that little space, we moved from 3 chairs, and we moved up to 5. And then COVID hit, and then before COVID hit, we moved over.
Okay, so
about
you
3
have, so give us the time. Like, so you spent a lot of time.
in that little spot. Yeah.
Yeah, how many years do you remember?
72 till, and that was we've been in our new spot 5 years now.
Okay.
I don't do math.
Yeah, so I mean, at least 30 years, around 30 years now. I mean,
Yeah.
that must have been a tight space. You must have just been packed.
We were, but we worked it out. People came in and came out. Like I said, my dad was working on his 3rd generation. I'm working on my 2nd. We've seen kids grow up from their first haircut to, and I send them off to kindergarten, high school, college, and then even they're bringing their own kids now.
Yeah.
So you get to know people.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's so rare. And, we were having a conversation before this where a lot of there's chains and the, franchises and things get big and you
Yeah.
kind of really lose a store or like a barbershop that kind of has like this historical connection to the town. Right? Because I know there's a lot of, like you say, you're cutting people's kids' hairs and grandkids.
Yeah,
Because they come back. From my understanding, they come back to Hinsdale or Western Springs or wherever they are because they want to raise their families there. And so then you see them again.
Oh yeah, that's a whole cycle thing. You're raised in Hinsdale, then you go to the city when you come out of college, then you come back to Hinsdale when you have family. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I tell people, even if you move away, stop in once in a while just so I could see what just see you.
Yeah, right.
See
yeah.
what happened to you. Yeah.
So, because even before COVID, which I'll ask about, because every business had to
Right.
pivot, right? And I
Right.
really thought about you guys a lot too. And similar with private practices and like, the way you make money is people coming in
Right.
to
right.
to your shop,
Yeah.
right? It's hard to cut hair online.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they couldn't do that. Yeah, right.
So family business. Tell us what it was like to take over the family. Like, what did that look like? What needed to take place to take over the Hinsdale Barber from your dad?
Well, actually, when we moved, my dad came with. He actually, how can I say? He worked part-time when we were still at the other shop but he got sick.
Okay.
So he got sick, and it was a major operation, so he took some time off. And so then I was running things. But he was still owner, put it that way. And then once he felt better, then like a year later, he came back and was cutting hair part-time. And then just mainly doing his clientele. And
Okay, yeah.
yeah. So, and then as we moved it to the new shop, he came along too. And so he
Okay.
came along, but only worked like 2-3 days a week working on his own clientele because he had customers for 40-something years. He's not going to let go. And they're still looking for him.
Really?
You know, oh, yeah, there's still some of his customers that come in that I've taken over now. You know, and that's that relationship, you know, and they you know, you go, I miss your dad, I miss your dad. I go, we all miss it, you know.
Yeah.
But he's still here, but he's 80 years old, and COVID hit, and he says, it's time for me to go back. Because, so
I
at
missed-
80, he was still cutting hair, yeah.
So I must have missed your dad, or I never saw him in the...
You must have came in the days he wasn't there, but yeah.
I do come in odd hours, like in between, like, oh, I have an appointment, or right before I get home, I was like,
Right.
I'll run by the...
Yeah.
What was your dad's name?
Renee.
Renee. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
Renee
cutting hair for that
Sturgeon.
long.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had a
He loved
barber.
it.
I had a barber back in Painesville, Ohio, where I grew up. Ken, and he cut hair for. He was a veteran, and he learned to cut hair in the Army, and so he set up a little shop with the barber shop. What do you call that? The spinning, the red
barber pole?
The barber pole, right?
Yeah.
And I went to him for years, but
Oh, yeah.
for 40 some years he cut hair. It's like you can't stop for.
Oh, they say barbers don't quit; they just die off. You know, they just don't. They don't quit. You just it's in your blood.
Yeah, yeah. I have this theory about barbers and hairstylists. Like, my theory is this: it's like, so I help a lot of therapists, right? So, and I'm married to a therapist, so everything's therapeutic. And there's something very therapeutic about getting your hair cut, like allowing someone to touch your head and wield sharp objects around it.
Right,
There's like a
right.
level of trust that you need to be. You don't let anybody else do that in your life,
Right.
right? And because of that, you actually have these really intimate conversations, and people just divulge all sorts of things about their life. They're just very comfortable, and then they start sharing about their world or their family or you know, I
you
just
get
kinda,
to know their families, you know, and that's what you get to know the people, and that's what I missed when we were off for those 2.5 months with COVID. It was like I missed just coming in. I missed just the, you know, I wonder what they're doing. I wonder if they're okay, you know. And I had people write to me, you know, and they email me, I lost my job, and it's like, oh, how heartbreaking, you know. So you start caring about these people because you know their lives, you know their families, you know.
Oh,
But they're more
absolutely.
than just the clients. That's why I said I seen them grow up, but you know, you want them to do well. That's why I don't, you know, if they go to another barber, if they go to this one, it doesn't matter. They're still coming to the shop because I get to see them. And I still cut hair too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me ask, can you, like, how many haircuts do you give a year?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't even start to count. You know, I don't even know. It's like I don't know. I mean,
The thousands. I mean, it's just,
yeah. I mean, you know, we do our 8 to 10 hours a day. You know, we're pretty busy. You know, so and we did okay even through COVID. You know.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah. We're doing okay.
yeah. Well, I look at it, I'm like, this is not just a gem of a business, but it looks like a really successfully run business.
Oh,
I mean,
thank you.
yeah. I mean, every time I go, like, I love that you have online scheduling. Like, that is just the biggest, I think that's one of the biggest things about it, is that I can pick my time and go in. And when I go in, I'm so grateful because it is like slam packed. Like,
Yeah,
it seems like all the
thank you.
time.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like when my dad started, I mean, when we were at the other shop, we started and we had a payphone. You know, we had a payphone, and that was our appointment thing. We were mostly walk-in shop, but we would have a payphone, and we would have to run up to the payphone, come back. You know, so as time went on, you have to move with technology, and you have to move with online service and marketing and all this other stuff. And
Okay,
it's
so
just like-
so when did you officially take over then?
I'd say about officially 5 years ago.
5 years ago. And then that's when you're like, okay, I imagine you didn't have a payphone then. So when you took it, were you thinking like, all right, these are the first things I'm going to change as soon as I do this? Is that kind of the conversation you're having in your head?
Yeah,
like
we had to have a website. We had to have. We didn't have one. We were more word of mouth. You
Yeah.
know, that's how we got our clientele. That's how we built up our clientele.
Yeah, which is the best form of marketing.
Yeah, and we still do. That's mainly how we got it. But our website, Julius does wonderful. That's why I had to get someone who knows about Instagram, about Facebook, and I didn't know any about that. So I said I had to surround myself with that. And then, the online service, we found something to do with something like that, and credit cards.
Oh yeah.
That's
right.
No, that's
Yeah.
another thing. We were.
Oh yeah. I
hate
can't
to
imagine
say, I hate to say cash only. That's all we did. It's like.
Oh yeah. I mean that was true it was like all cash.
That's Barber's way.
Yeah.
It's cash only. But we had to jump in. We
Yeah.
would have people go, well, can you go to the ATM down the street?
Yeah.
We were sending people, and I was like, we gotta get.
And then you're thinking, maybe I should just have an ATM in my store.
Victor actually brought that up, but I said, no, we can't do that in Hinsdale. It's Hinsdale, right?
Well, I rarely carry cash anymore.
Yeah.
Like I pay my babysitter through Quick Pay. Like it's and it's funny because I was like, my babysitter, I said, it would make this really easy if you could just open up a bank account and I can just wire you the money through it.
Oh, and
She's
that's mostly.
Oh, okay, yeah. And she did it and it makes it so easy.
And that's mainly, that's how we, we're doing it. Most the 30 on down that's all they do. It's credit cards and this and online.
Yeah.
Now I have mostly the older clientele along with another barber of mine, Anita. We have the older people, which they're starting to learn online and they're starting to book appointments, but we're still, the old way where you could call up our shop and then just make an appointment where I had to hire Amber to kind of do our online, to do our phone calls for appointments and put them online. And, so, I had to surround myself with all these people.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, you have to surround yourself with people. Yeah.
And I do.
It takes a village,
Yeah. To cut hair and to keep it running.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, so modernizing, really, you got to get a website, people online, we got to do credit cards. What else were you thinking? Oh, it would be social media. That seems really fundamental.
That's a big thing, social media and then okay, so then, haircuts change as they go, they you have to change with the times there too. So besides doing the classes, you're continuing education. Now I have to surround myself with people who know how to do, like you said, a blowout or a fade. And we do all those fades, beards, shaving, where I could do it, but I surround with people who do it, you know what I mean? Much better. You know what I mean? I don't do the shaves and all this because you lose practice.
Yeah.
I haven't shaved in, 20 years because it went out for a while.
Yeah.
And now it's all back, hot towel shaves and beards.
Beards when they put that warm lather on my neck.
Like you got a nice
oh my
fade,
goodness,
nice
that was
haircut.
amazing.
Yadi gives you a nice haircut. She does all that. But I had to surround myself with those kind of people. So then now I have to look for people who do fades and
Yeah. Well, it's like any business owner, really. At some point, you kind of have to stop doing the things and then hiring people to do those specialties or to have that set of skills for you. Because you just, like for me, it's like I'm having a hard time keeping up. I can't do Facebook ads anymore.
Right, exactly. No, you have to keep up with it, or you'll die out.
Yeah. So at least you know these things, and then you're like, well, I'm not going to learn it, but at least know about it, and so now you know who to hire. So what is in these days? Are blowouts still?
Yeah, fades are big things, and beards and shaves, and teens are into their long hair right now still.
You know what I was thinking? I was like, all you have to do is watch European soccer.
It's like a fade right there.
Yeah. You watch, and you can see like where their hairstyle's going over the next year or two, and eventually come over to the States. I saw this substitute come in. I'm a big soccer fan, and it was like a third string substitute guy. Like he looks like he didn't have a haircut. Like he wasn't expecting to play for Liverpool. He was just there in case. Well, sure enough, there was like a ton of injuries. And you see this guy, he's like, his hair was like all over.
No.
Like he looked at, sure enough, the next week he got a fade.
He got a nice looking haircut, right?
Now he's on television playing.
Right.
So you modernized the business, and then, but you also moved. So tell us about that process.
Because we were renting all those years down the street, So
Longest
now
lease ever, yeah.
Right, yeah, right. We went through 3 landlords, First it was the father, then the mother, and then the son,
You outlasted,
yeah. So now, and then this building came along, and it was sitting there for a while, and the kids decided to sell, and thank God we could get it,
Nice. Did you buy the building?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it was a process just putting it together. But my dad's a ghost starter business. He loves doing that stuff.
Oh, okay.
He loves. I mean, he had a building and he said back when he says I could put a taco stand. He never did a taco stand in his life, and he decided we did a restaurant. And he had it for 20 years. So it was like he knows how to start business, and he's great at it.
Yeah.
I admire him for all that.
So after 40 years, then he gets the
so he was cutting hair and selling tacos. We did both.
My goodness. Okay, so you were able to buy the building.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to do a bunch of work to it?
Oh yeah, we had to gut the whole thing. We gutted the whole thing, and
What was there before?
it was the dog groomers, and they washed dogs on the bottom, and my dad and us put our heads together in the contractor and got it going.
Wow. How old is
Yeah.
the building, the actual structure itself? Because I imagine it's
Oh, it's
ancient.
got to be. Because we couldn't knock it down because they don't. You can't.
It's a
you can't-
historic- it's almost a historic-
It is because it was part of. If you remember Hartley's bike shop.
Yes.
So Hartley's was a auto. They used to sell cars there,
Really?
and ours was the place where they did the contracts. So it was kind of attached. So it was like they said, you can't knock it down. It's historic. So
No way. Then you redid it again for COVID.
yeah, yeah, that was another one. Yeah.
How do I hang 6-foot plexiglass clear?
Plexiglass was the hardest to find, but but we didn't know what we had to do. We didn't have rules,
Oh, right.
Because Illinois didn't put those out, so we looked at how California did, and me and my dad and.
Well, they just shut California down.
Yeah, so me and the pastor, we went along to other shops that were open to see what they were doing and how to hang those and what are we going to do.
Yeah. So we're looking at March when things closed down.
Yeah, March 22nd or something like that, we shut down. And we were shut down.
I remember getting the email.
We were shut down for 2.5 months.
What does a barbershop like you do for 2.5 months?
Pray a lot. We're praying. I mean,
Yeah.
we walked out of there and we're saying, okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Oh, sure.
I said, I'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll be back. So everybody took it as a vacation. And then I would call my employees and said, they said another month. And then I was like, oh God, yeah. So a lot of praying and then we had a meeting before we came in, see how does this work for everybody, and it works. We're going to have to do this. We had a set of rules, how we have to have our mask and wash our hands, and how we have to be careful.
Well, Yachty kept getting better and better cutting hair with mask on. Every time I come in,
we're so used to people said, how could you cut your hair and that all day long? It's like I walk outside, I forgot to take it off. I probably got lines because I had my mask on right now, and I was like, yeah, because you get used to it. And you have to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As long as we're cutting hair and we're there, because people would say, this ain't fair. Why can't you come? And I was like, we had to think of our families, so we couldn't do it,
Yeah.
We couldn't open during that time. But I'm glad a lot of our customers waited, and they're so sweet. Some of them were knocking envelopes at the door and saying, this is for my haircut this week. And
Oh
I
my
left the
goodness.
envelope, and I was like, really? I go, they didn't have to do that. And I was like, that's why, I mean, we have that, it's more than just a client. You know what I mean? They're more than, I want to say family, but they
Yeah,
are.
that's
I mean, because,
beautiful.
we get to know their families, you know.
So a lot of praying,
Yeah.
generosity of people, paying for haircuts they wouldn't get for weeks.
And they waited. Some of them
Yeah.
waited. I mean, when they came in, we had hair. I mean, I was like, oh my God.
You're the amount of
God
clean.
bless you. You waited all that time, I was like, yeah.
You look terrible. Let me help you. Well, I remember because I was thinking through for a lot of businesses, how do you pivot during this time. And I just remember one thing you were doing, you would just send out occasional emails on how to cut hair.
And that's the thing. You make a lot of mistakes. And I had another answering service, but they didn't have that personal feel. They didn't know, I want the girl by the red wall, or I want the guy in the Puerto Rican guy in the front. And they didn't know our shop. So here comes Amber, and she sees us through the cameras, and she knows us, and she knows all of us in the shop. So she gets, and she even says, I know Brent, and I got to know him through the phone, and they started conversation. He goes, I have so many conversations with these people,
I'm sure,
just by setting up appointments, but she got to know him.
Yeah, and I remember you sent out emails on how to cut hair. Like, you were finding these little ways just to kind of stay in touch.
I hope it helped. It's just like, we made mistakes here and there, but we said,
sure.
no, we gotta, this is turning into a long process. We're out, who knows how long we're going to be out.
Yeah. I mean, what was it like for your employees?
Some of them have spouses, some of them cut hair actually, around in their garage.
Yeah, right. Just open up
another one got another job. I mean, we managed here and there, just doing little what we can.
So you kind of redid the shop a little bit, plexiglass things. Like
our dividers, because there's 7 of us, so we had to.
Oh, it's very close. Yeah,
because they said at first, well, if there's someone, if we're that close, we have to have one chair out. Now, who's going to be out? We couldn't let nobody go.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do that to them, so I said, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Let's put dividers
why not?
up.
It looks like there's, protection there. Sure. Yeah. No, I think I think business owners had to get so creative and keeping people employed, putting food on people's table. I feel like the word essential business was such a bad
and we're not
phrase.
essential.
Well, I know, and here's the thing: it's like at the end of the day, all business is essential because it puts food on the table for these people. It provides mental stability. Like, I have work and the dignity of work and everything. I think I've shared this with so many of my guests, is that I'm in the mental health field, and everybody's full. Like, all the clinicians, the mental health crisis in our country is absolutely real. I mean, the amount of suicide cases that I do the marketing, so I see some of the intakes that come through, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, marriages are struggling, students are struggling, like failing grade. Like, it's been really hard, and then just the mental toll on everything, and then you start back business up again, and I imagine they're not like rested, like nobody's rested coming out of this thing, and then you jump right back into. So I'm curious, what has it been like for you as a business owner? You went through this, and now you're on the other side. Like, how are you thinking about business these days? I'm just curious. What's been on your mind as we're kind of coming out of the pandemic?
That it's a blessing. I mean, it's been I mean, the shop itself from day one to now, it's been a blessing. I mean, one thing I throw that in there. My dad, from the start of business, and he told me to keep it going, that you don't walk out of that shop without giving thanks to the good Lord above that He gave it to you.
Yeah.
So you give your blessings and don't leave the shop till you say your prayers and you say thank you for today, you know. And that's
for daily bread.
Yeah, exactly. As a business owner, I've just been blessed. I mean, besides with the community, with my work, my employees. I mean. Yeah, it's hard sometimes, but but they're all in there, and they all hard workers, and they do great work, and I just give thanks, every day. And thank you for keeping me going, and that we're safe. And
So now I'm curious. Tell me about that back area, because I've never been back there.
Oh, you never been back
I went to the front. I'm like, what is that? Is that extra chairs?
Well, there's 2 employees back there, so Omar's back there.
Okay.
That's another fader. He's great at it.
Is that what you call them, the faders?
The faders, yeah, right. No, he's great at it too. And Anita's back there, and she's one of our part-timers. And, we do beards and the shaves and all this because you have to take off your mask.
Yeah.
And you have to give a hot towel shave, and you have to take off your mask. So
maybe I'll do that just to take my mask off now.
Right, exactly. So we put you back, and we do eyebrows and whatever, and waxing, but then we have another divider, a big board to separate us from whatever. So we have to adjust. We're like, where are we going to do this? And it's like, we'll just go in the back, and then we'll put another divider up there. Yeah, so we have more, and these are more to the ground dividers where you're all blocked in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the things you have to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Well,
like
what are you doing with the basement?
the basement. Well, when we moved, we had such a hard time moving into our shop upstairs. You know, with the village and trying to set up. And,
mercy, yeah,
it took us forever to get in there. Our goal right now, we went from my dad started with three chair shop, and we moved it up to almost 7 now.
Yeah.
And
I feel like you could have
hopefully
more.
we keep expanding and,
Yeah.
and, you know, getting further. You know, we have 2 girls that do women and color and this, and we do the beards and the shaves. So
See, my wife
who
would be
knows?
interested
So-
in that then.
yeah, so we're you know, hopefully one day, you know, we just keep expanding. You know, that's the goal. That's the dream. You know, people just keep growing.
Speaking of growing, what do you feel like? What have you learned about yourself?
Oh my
being a
gosh.
business owner,
My dad was my, you know,
mentor,
my
or
mentor,
whatever. The
and
example?
then he was my right hand man. Put it that way. He was there. He had my back, and then he left, and I was like, how am I going to do this? I go, I'm left by myself, you know, and I was like, how am I going to do this? And I still feel like, you know, but then, like I said, I'm surrounding myself with people who have my back other ways, you know, besides my employees and Julius and Amber and they're all looking out for me, and I found out I could do this. You know, I just have to keep up with the technology and the media and everything else, and even talking to you because this ain't my thing. I put me behind a chair. I'm okay. I could converse, you know, but with, you know, was never a great speech person. But you got to do what you got to do, and
Yeah.
trust you could do it. You know, just push yourself.
Yeah. That's a good word. I mean, you're constantly evolving and you're learning, because in some ways
to.
you are a parent to your employees. You know, there's that nurturing side.
Yeah, I mean, you wish they all listen, you know. You know, you're like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just telling. I know from experience, and they're just like, yeah, right, yeah, all right, yeah.
Sure, Mom.
Yeah. I get, yeah. Well, especially because it's funny how we got all age groups in there. You know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, now before I was the young one, and now I'm getting to be the older one, and we got 20-something to, you know, I won't say, but yeah, I was like, yeah, and so we got all, you know, different age
Yeah.
groups. So
I was going to ask a question about how you've seen Hinsdale change then through the years.
oh my gosh, yeah,
I would love your
so-
thoughts on that, since
When I first walked in, I walked in 1986. I was there. That was when I started, and it was a mom and pop shop down all around us. You know, little shops and the Piccadilly and the little sandwich shops and pharmacies and Hartley's and all these little shops and you knew all the owners and it was old money. So people who came from nothing, they built that money themselves. You know what I mean? And it was all older people, you know. And then, you know, it started evolving, you know, and now it's like you said, it's more of a chains and high-end shops. And not that it's not homey, it's that the people changed. You know, it's like younger crowd of people. Now there's 30-year-olds moving into Hinsdale with young kids, you know.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, right. And that's more like your age and moving into Hinsdale. And it's great, you know, it's just changed, you know. I like the change. I mean, you know, like you said, you have to keep evolving.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking
Yeah.
with you and Pages and maybe a couple other where you kind of have this deep historical connection to Hinsdale. And I mean, the rate of change in Chicagoland, it's been my experience that not everyone comes and stays and lives forever. Like, it's very transient. And from my neighbors and everything else, like, I'm a transplant from Ohio, you know, and I know a lot of Ohio people.
But then you ask people and they say, no, but my wife used to live in the suburbs and she came from here. And because Hinsdale's great. I mean, schools and kids, and you love to raise your kids here,
Yeah.
you know, and I love Hinsdale.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could afford Hinsdale, but I will.
Well, you might. I mean, you kind of live in Hinsdale, don't you? Maybe maybe there's hope for that basement.
Right, exactly. I'll live right there, right?
Well, thank you so much for
no,
coming
thank
and
you.
have this. You know, I know it took courage to do a podcast, you know, to do this.
I said,
And
what's a podcast?
but I know when I thought, You're asking you're asking your team, hey, what's a podcast, guys? Yeah. Like,
Right?
well, yeah. So thanks for joining me and
thank you.
taking the courage. When I started the Hinsdale Local, I was like, I wanted this just to have conversations with other business owners in the Hinsdale area and learn it, just learn it. And it's been a great way to connect. So thanks for having the courage to come on.
Thank you.
So how can people find out more about you and Hinsdale Barber?
You can go to hinsdalebarbershop.com and book online and just learn about our history and what we do there. And then, or they could just call the shop at 630-654-9689.
One of the last businesses with a phone number.
By a phone number, yeah. But you'll talk to Amber.
And the phone number will be in the show notes for the episode. All right, folks, thanks for listening. If you found this conversation useful and fun, subscribe to the podcast, and please join me again next time for the Hinsdale Local Podcast.